Alright, well, had a little trouble with seems like every time I try to do this it's different, so sorry about the funny beginning. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about today. Firstly, I have moved all of the, as they're coming out, the last couple, and from now on all of the new episodes are going to be premiering on Rumble and not here, because I wasn't getting much traction here and I'm getting better traction on Rumble. And if I allow Rumble to promote and it be exclusive to Rumble, then I get even better traction, so I can't do them here and there at the same time that way. So I'll quit putting them up here, so if you'd go over to Rumble and just follow me there, that would be great. I still need one more follower over there before I can stream over there, but I'm getting ready to move. Once I get that other follower, I'm going to move the stream over there too and pretty much close this channel down. So, but having said that, let's see. We recorded our first episode of the second half of the first season of Slow Children, or excuse me, of Shadows of Balak this past Saturday. I had a new player, Gary, and a new player to you all, Alex. He's been playing in my games since 96, I guess. Yeah, about 96, I think, is when we met. So, 29 years. And then, of course, my wife, Jolene, was also playing a second character in there, and I'll introduce those shortly. Let's see. Is there anything else about that? Also, I haven't had anybody try to get in on the contest, but it is still open, and if you go back, it's still eligible for winning the weekly prizes and the entire season prize. So the weekly prizes being electronic game tokens that you can use on a virtual tabletop, or that you can print out and cut out and use on your, if you do maps and minis and go the inexpensive way where you're using chits and tokens and stuff. And then the season long prize is that hang on, let me get it and I'll show it to you. Is this one here. This dice bag that is a chainmail dice bag made from aluminum rings that are golden in color. If I remember right, it holds about 70 normal size dice, which is enough for quite a few complete sets. So, and that is if you happen to correctly answer all of the weekly questions, you're in the running for that. Let's see. Okay, well, let me get on to introducing the new characters. I tried to do it in an earlier episode, and I'm still learning the streaming software here and had forgot to set up the mic. I'd set it up as a different scene and forgot to set up a mic on it. This time I've got the entire thing on one scene, so let's see. I guess I can go ahead and turn these all on. Why they have turned off, I don't know. Maybe just because they're not showing. There we go. Sorry, I gotta play around with something. All right, so first we've got the first character is going to be Gary's, and his name is Django. He's a half-elf earth cleric, and he is kind of neutral, and considering the rest of the group leans neutral to evil, he's going to probably be the closest thing to a moral compass that they have. Then you've got, let me see, she's got a Scandinavian sounding name, so I got to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Dodsfeld, something like that. Yeah, Dodsfeld. And that is Jolene's character. And then once we get to where at the beginning of the second season that these two groups come together, she'll decide if she wants to play that character or if she wants to play her halfling character or not. But Dodsfeld is a half-elf as well, and she is a necromancer defiler. Then we get to the last of the PCs in that group, and that is Gregoris, and he is a mall gladiator. As if the art didn't give that away already, so that'll mean in season 2 they'll have some extra muscle. They'll have 3 single-classed warriors in that group, so that'll be a good meat wall up front. And I also wanted to share one of the NPCs who was that we used in the first episode, and that is actually Gregoris is in when he starts out, he's serving his 1 month out of every year or 1 month out of every 10 months military service that everyone, including slaves in Balak, serve, and he was out on patrol, and this was the leader of his patrol, and his name is Hippias, and he is a Balakan Templar, and he is involved with that first episode as well. See, what else can I talk about that adds value? Hang on, let me go back, because I don't think there's anybody, but yeah, nobody's talking to me, but I'm gonna still keep an eye out just in case somebody happens to pop in. Let me also go back to where you can see my ugly face. There we go. And back to there. Okay. So this week, actually just the other day, this morning or last night, on the main Dark Sun Facebook group, Robert Adasi, who's like the primary admin there, had put up his occasional question, which is, do you have any questions about Dark Sun? And a few people had asked questions, and I figured that I would go ahead and talk about 3 of them in particular. one of them asked why there are still so many people who seem to think that Athos is completely cut off, or is only has can only be accessed through like the Gith Gate from that's under the Black Spine Mountains, or Dragos Planar Gate, which is a common misconception. I did a whole video about this and went and looked into the various canon sources, and I only did like 75-4 one way or the other. I was doing, okay, this is evidence, here's canon evidence for the it's cut off of argument, here's canon evidence for it's harder to reach but not completely cut off, especially when you're talking about like portals and stuff. And it turned out that the harder to reach but not completely cut off got like 75 or 77. I don't remember. I did it 3 years ago. Versus I gave 4 or 5 to the other one. There was really only like 2 that were good. The other 2 or 3 were kind of sympathy. They were like, I can kind of stretch that since they're so far behind. I'll just be generous and give it to them. But it's still a common misconception, even though that video's been out for about 3 years, although that it has helped a little bit when it comes to clearing that up for people, because a lot of people have just heard that. They've never actually read the sidebar on page 10 of Defilers and Preservers of Athos, which is really the only place in canon, if you're counting, gaming material as canon. Actual TSR gaming material is canon. That's the only place in canon that it really covers it. Now, as far as Dark Sun material, there is one place in the Chronomancer's Guide, which, if you watch the video, you'll see is something that was kind of slapped together and wasn't written by anybody that had anything to do with Dark Sun. So the author kind of suffered from the same thing a lot of these people do. They had kind of heard something and they put it in there, but that's the one really good hard canon thing. And it's, like I said, it's not actual from anything for Dark Sun. It's just for a supplement that wasn't even originally written for D&D. It was written for Rolaids and bought by TSR and hastily adapted. So there's that. Let's see, what was one of the other things? There was one about, and I'm not certain that I understood the question, but about if after they had killed Dragoth, after he came back to life, if the other Sorcerer Kings got back together and killed him. And I didn't answer that because I wasn't sure if they were under what context they were talking about, but in actual published 2E stuff, no. He's still at the end of the Dark Sun run there. He is still awaiting what they call the Day of Light. He's still trying to get all his ducks in a row so that he can go up and invade Rame and get his revenge first on Abla-Tree and sacrifice everyone in that city on his altar and become what he believes will make him a god, and then he'll have his revenge on the others. But that's kind of where they leave it at the end of that, at the end of the Dark Sun run for 2E. So as far as 2E is concerned, that's actually published 2E, then no, they had not come back after him because they didn't know that he had risen again. He'd been taken down into the catacombs and resurrected. He resurrected there, and then he brought people down kind of secretly down and found New Gustanal and brought people down there secretly and has been secretly living under there. And they pretty much are just like, oh, well, he's dead in that old ruin over there somewhere. We're not worried about him. We've got each other to worry about still. So, yeah, the Sorcerer Kings didn't go after him. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, somebody asked about if particularly weapons and armor made from inferior materials like, the obsidian stone, bone, and wooden weapons, or, say, this isn't an example they gave because they didn't give any examples, but they did ask about armor. So I'd say like Kank plate instead of metal plate if it were enchanted to be magical, whether it would still be durable, or if it would have increased durability like normal magical weapons or armor do. And I got to looking around and because I had a feeling, I couldn't say for sure, but I had a feeling that of course it would. It's still been enchanted. It may still not be as tough as because of what it's made of as its metal counterparts, and that's pretty much what I found. I looked in several places in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and then made sure by looking in the Dark Sun Rules book that nothing had been changed there. But basically, it said that it's first of all, for an item to make a save, it has to either be not being carried by a person, or if it's making a save against a particular type of damage, the person who is carrying it or wearing it has to have already failed their save versus the type of damage, which means that the full damage is hitting that person, so it's hitting all their items. And then once it gets to that, say it's a +2, what was the example I gave? A +2 obsidian sword. Well, it's going to save on table 29, which I believe is on page 39 of the original second edition Player's Handbook. It's going to save as glass, but it's going to get a +2 to that save. So it will be more durable because of that. And then when it comes to the stuff that was in the rules book, it talks about rolling, if max damage is done, rolling to see if a weapon breaks there. The same thing would apply there. You would roll. Well, now that I think about it, I don't know exactly how that would work, because you're trying to hit 20 and there's no way to hit 22. So I don't know. I'll have to think about how we do that. I didn't go into that in my answer there. Is the reason I was just thinking through that here and adding it on. I'd have to think about how you'd handle that there. That might be an excuse for a kind of a rolling advantage disadvantage thing, borrowing that 1-5e rule there, but I don't know. I'd have to think about it, because that has the average of ±5, so that's awfully big. But then if you're talking about a weapon or a piece of armor that that has special powers but does not have a particular plus to it, or a weapon, say, with plus but also then has added powers, you're going to add pluses to its save, depending on it. That's kind of a judgment call on the DM's part. For like each power and how powerful it is, you may add a little bit onto the bonus that they get there too. So that's that. Trying to remember anything else we want to talk about. If you haven't watched this past week's episode of the Shadows of Balak, you're going to want to do that. It's still in the first half. It's episode 6, and episode 6 is quite a few things happen, but the kind of the biggest thing is they go to a brothel to try to meet a Templar, and make a deal with him. And as you would expect, a Greco-Roman brothel with a Templar who is also Greco-Roman based, it makes for some interesting conversation while they're while they're negotiating. So you may want to check that out. That's over on Rumble. I'll update just as soon as I'm done with this, I will update the description with the link to that, so you can go watch that. And remember that next week on Rumble, Wednesday at 8 o'clock is when the episode 7 will premiere. So, and if anybody watches this before then, if you could watch during the premiere, that helps a whole lot. They see that there are a lot of people that are interested in seeing it right when it comes out, so they'll push it out to more people. So that would help me greatly. I guess that's about all I've got to say. Hopefully by this time next week I won't even be on YouTube. I'll be over on Rumble, and hopefully some of you will follow me over there. I'll hope to see you there. You have a great day.